Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the I'm an Asset podcast. As always, I'm your co-host, Zachary Wilson.
And I am your other co host, Dr. Brianne Smith.
It's so great to have you viewers back. Today, we're going to be talking about a little bit different structured episode. Normally, we both find a subject and give our own 2 cents on it, but today, I'm going to be asking a majority of the questions, and hopefully, these are questions you guys have, and even if you know a lot about what we're talking about today, I still think you'll learn something because she definitely knows. She literally has a doctorate in what I'm asking about today. So let's just go ahead and hop into it. I'm mainly going to be talking about investment retirement accounts today. And the reason that is because school has started back up. I'm in my school uniform. That's what this weird getup is. And
looks good on you.
On my first day, I was in an econ class, and my teacher was talking about these investment retirement accounts. And I already knew what they were, and I already knew it was something I should probably already have since I'm 18. But like, we really delved into like really how much money you can make. I mean, it's not free money. You do have to invest a lot over a period of time. But and during the process, you're probably going to feel like you're just throwing it away or you want to take it out. But then near the end of the process, you're like, are these people just giving us free money, you know? And I don't really understand the process a lot yet, and some of the ins and outs. So that's what we're doing here today. But first, I want her, because she can establish it best, what is financial literacy?
Oh, financial literacy is a term in the finance research that describes how knowledgeable an individual is about financial topics. And there's some particular ones that are looked at. In particular, that I think we'll probably talk about today is this idea of compounding, where your money stacks on top of itself, on top of itself, on top of itself, and the power of that. And so a lot of financially literate people who know these things can take advantage of them. And then in the research, it shows that the less knowledgeable you are about some of these topics, the less likely you are to participate and be not as well off when you're ready to retire. So I think it's an important thing to, especially as part of personal capital, to improve your financial literacy because it gives you the ability not only to understand how to deal with your money, but how to grow with it.
That's great. And I've been needing to know that. I hope some other people learn that. I think as soon as you said compounding, I couldn't stop thinking about this one question I saw somewhere online that can exemplify someone who doesn't have a lot of knowledge about compounding. This is just a little off to the side, but the question goes, would you rather have $1 million or a penny that doubles every day in value for the next month? And upon the surface inspection, you would think just $1 million. Like, that's so much money compared to a penny. I don't care how many times the penny doubles, there's no way it reaches anywhere near $1 million, you know? But I think after you do the math, it's a significantly larger number if you take the penny for a month that doubles in value every day. You should go do the math at home and see just how much, and it's shocking because it just sounds like a month. And that's kind of the whole concept with an IRA, I believe, is that you can take not as much money up front, but if you spend the time, you'll eventually have, you'll be in a better position in the end. So I know this is a very broad question, but what is an IRA?
So an IRA stands for an individual retirement account. And this is different from when you go to work for a company and they offer you a retirement plan. that is company sponsored. This is something that you can open up outside of your employer, and you can still get similar benefits as a company retirement plan. There are definitely drastic differences, but a similar benefit as a 401k, for example, with your employer would be that if you put money into an IRA, it will grow tax-free, which means that interest that you're earning or dividends or growth in the account will not be taxed to you while it's growing and while it's inside that shell of an individual retirement account. And you had just mentioned something about compounding, but there's lots of different accounts. I think you particularly wanted to talk about this today because it was mentioned in your econ class, but there are a lot of ways to invest that you can take advantage of the compounding scenario. What's unique about an IRA is the way that it's taxed while it's growing, or not taxed, actually.
I wanted to compare, since we're just talking about investment right now, and you said compounding. I don't think stocks don't compound necessarily, but
well, could you dig into that a little
tell me
bit?
about it.
Yeah, because an individual retirement account is the shell in which you put money into, and then you take that money and you invest it into a number of different things. A stock is an example of something that you could invest your contributed money into. Stocks will provide income in two different ways, or at least two different ways. One is that it will pay dividends. So it will have earnings periodically. Not all stocks pay dividends, especially if the company that you have invested in doesn't have any profits yet, or this year. They might not pay a dividend, but you're hoping that there will be some kind of consistent recurring earnings that come from your stock. Secondly, you're hoping that the value of your stock increases, so it grows in value. So if you buy a stock for $100, you're hoping that when you sell it, it's for more than $100. So there's gains there that you're looking for. So the compounding comes from growth on top of income, and then together those things are stacking. So you are getting the compounding inside of an IRA with an investment like a stock, although that's not the only type of investment that you can have.
So you can take, it's to my understanding that you cannot take the money out of the retirement account.
So in particular for an IRA, and I do want to make sure we talk about the two main types, although there are many types of IRAs.
We'll circle back to that, yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry, what was your question?
We were talking about if you could take the money in your retirement account out.
Take it out, right. So you can start investing in an IRA so long as you have earnings, so that you are making money in some kind of way. So you can't open up an IRA for your baby and start putting money into an IRA unless your baby works for you or something like that. That's for another show, maybe. But so as soon as you start working and you have employment, you can open up your own IRA outside, or your parents can help you to open this up. But you are not, the money that you put in, you are not able to take out without penalty or extreme situation until you are 59 and a half. So you are, in a sense, locking it up for a while until you are ready to use it. This particular type of account is specifically for retirement purposes. So later on in life.
Cool. Yeah. And I did want to touch a little bit on the fact that you can't take it out until like a very later stage of your life. I say very later because I'm only 18. And that might not be as late for some people, but I did want to touch up on like what you said. So you can make these gains with the stocks, and you can't take the money out, but what are you allowed to do with the money while it's in there? Like, what can you move it from different types of
Yes.
investments?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. Let's say that you, and that's another reason why the shell of the IRA is really important, because you can sell your investments for gains and reinvest that money into something else, and it's all still in the shell of the IRA, but you don't pay tax on those gains. You also don't receive any benefit of any losses you might have because they're inside this shell. So there's no tax consequences of, or at least, right away, of trading or investing inside of the IRA into different things along the way.
Okay. And I just have to ask this because I like to thoroughly understand the process of something. It better helps me to remember it. And I also like to know, like, there's always a why behind something, especially in the US economy. No one does anything for free. Why does we know the IRA is a government controlled thing, or like, isn't it?
It's not. There are definitely rules and regulations around it, but they're not actually like controlling the account.
Well, I mean, like, you know how if you take your money out and there's a penalty, who enforces that?
Oh yeah, the IRS. Yes.
Oh,
The
okay.
government. Yes, I see what you're saying. The rules around it are a government implemented thing.
So like, these all just seem like, well, there's obviously time is a factor, but what is the other side getting from it? You're giving these people your money, and in return you get more money that's tax free, with interest, but like you get it grows with interest and it's tax free. What did they get out of it?
I love this question. Okay, so to answer it, it's going to be a little bit of a going back in time. So my parents, for example, and their parents had retirements mostly from big companies that they worked for 30 and 40 years called pensions. And so you would go and work for a company, they would invest for you and promise you, if you work for us for 30 or 40 years, you will have a fixed retirement at the end of your employment here, and we'll pay it for the rest of your life. And that's called a defined benefit plan. So your employer has defined up front what the benefit will be for you when you retire. And then any kind of risk in the market along the way is on the employer to take care of that, because they've already promised you the benefit, and any change in their investments in order to provide you that benefit is your employer's problem, essentially. Well, there's been a lot of ups and downs in the market in the last 30, 40, 50 years, especially in 2008. There was an economic downturn, which you will probably talk about in your econ class. And during that time, many of these pension accounts struggled to come up with the money. And the government had to come in and pitch in for these types of accounts to be fulfilling their benefit promise. Well, so the government's interest here is to encourage individuals like me and you to actually have other plans for retirement other than just the employer. It's also very expensive for an employer to offer this kind of benefit, and also very risky, just like I said. So what an IRA is not a defined benefit. So we don't know what the benefit is. It's a defined contribution plan. So we are allowed, the government has defined what we can contribute every year, but the risk of the market is on us. But more and more, the government is encouraging people to invest in their own retirement, not relying on either Social Security or a pension of a bigger company to offer that retirement. So it's wonderful if you still work for an employer that has that option. Or if you work for a state government, like the state of Alabama has a pension type of retirement plan. But then there's also lots of motivation and encouragement from the government and for us to save for ourselves.
Okay, yeah. Well, that was very detailed. I'm gonna actually have to go back and watch this. Luckily, y'all already can. I will. Let's circle back to the other two things. So we just talked about the pension retirement account, and like the other, Social Security. Those are other forms of retirement contributions you can have. But you said there was two different types of IRAs. What are those types?
There's actually more than two, but the main two that you probably hear a lot about are the traditional IRA. And the traditional IRA is most like the 401k or 403b at your employer. That's going to be, you put money in, you get a tax deduction for it now on your personal tax return. You get a deduction for putting that money in. So that's tax deductible, grows tax free. But then when you pull the money out in retirement, that's when it's taxable. So that's called a traditional IRA. You only pay tax on the money you pull out when you pull it out. And then a Roth IRA is different. You put in after-taxed money. You don't get an upfront deduction on your tax return for it. It still grows tax-free, but then when you pull it out in retirement, there's no taxes at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You basically are paying tax on the money on the income you make now by not getting a deduction. And then when you pull it out later, it's tax-free. Now, the caveat is you can make too much money to participate in a Roth IRA. So right now, I was actually just looking at these numbers earlier today for a married couple. This year, it's between $230,000 and $240,000 of income. Once you start making more than that, you can't contribute to a Roth IRA anymore. Now, there are ways, but it's called a backdoor Roth IRA. Not for today's discussion, but instead you can still participate in a traditional IRA. And there is, at some point, you make too much money to actually get that deduction on the front end as well. So there are some limitations if you're in the high income space to get those upfront deduction or to even participate in a Roth. But if you are just starting out, it's a perfect opportunity to start putting into a Roth because you may make too much money one day. Mm-hmm.
I would say if your problem is you make too much money, I don't think retirement will be too much of an issue for you.
Now, one would think so, but you would be surprised, Zachary. Yeah.
I'll worry about it when I'm 65.
Oh, and you know what? I love that you just said that, because earlier you were like, it's so hard to decide to put money into an account like that you actually can't get for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really why a lot of people have trouble with investing and saving for retirement, because it's really hard to save for your future self. Because your future self is almost like a complete stranger. You don't know what your future self likes to do. You don't know who that person is married to, what their hobbies are, how much money they like to spend, what their spending habits are. And it's almost like you're saving for a stranger, and it seems so far away from when you need it. You do have to intentionally decide to do that, though, in order for this to work out.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was the last thing I wanted to talk about today was, like, you have the every IRA has like some kind of penalty if you take the money out, right? Generally.
Yeah, before 59 and a half. Mm-hmm.
So when we're even talking about these, you have to think, this is what I've been thinking about, because I'm gonna do one, but it's just a matter of how much and for how long and stuff like that. But it's like one question you'll get in interviews or applications that stumps a lot of people is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And then this is like, where do you see yourself when you're in between now and 65? And that's like, how am I supposed to know? Like, and there's a lot of money you can't touch. And so you have to have an extra gap of like emergency funds in case there's some medical problem or like house problem or like the market crash. Stuff can happen in life, and you can't save every penny to your IRA because you can't touch that money. And if you do, you lose a lot of it. And so it's like,
Well, there's also a limitation on how much you can put into an IRA. So you can't like put all your savings into an IRA anyway.
That makes sense. Yeah.
There's only, I believe this year it's $8,000. So I think you could only put $8,000 into an IRA, and you have to at least have made that much money. So that it has to be, you can't put in more than your earnings. Where did you get all that money?
That is not a problem for me.
And then you also have a cap on how much you can put in it, and those numbers change every year.
Every year?
Mm-hmm.
I would ask more, but I think we've gotten the goal accomplished of today's main goal accomplished, which is just covering what is an IRA, and for those who don't know, and for me, because I didn't know. I need to get one.
Yeah. Well, I really like that you're taking this econ class, and you're taking some other financial related classes too. So I think this will spur on some really interesting questions that you have about your own personal finances. I love it.
Yeah, it was good. I'm glad we did it, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Okay. See you then.